everyone, today we're going to be looking at section 1 from Linha Curva. Our learning objectives for today's lesson are to gain knowledge of the choreographic content and production features of section 1. Your extra challenge is to begin to link the choreographic intention, the choreographic approach and the stimulus to section 1, and your literacy focus is to use dance terminology throughout the lesson when discussing the choreographic content and production features. For our starter task, you now need to watch section 1 of the Linha Curva. When watching the clip of this section, I want you to note down what you see. This could be, for example, the formation of the dancers or the lighting design that has been chosen. Note down as many points as you can, and this will help you throughout the lesson. Watch section 1, I want you to get out or download the section 1 booklet. It should have 4 pages, which consist of the oral setting, the lighting, the staging, and the choreographic content, which we will be looking at today. Using the notes you wrote down in your starter task, I want you to spend around 3 minutes putting them on the correct pages of the booklet. We are going to start by looking at the staging of section 1. Using the image, I want you to label and describe the set, staging and performance space. Remember to think about the type, the location, the colours, the shape and the backdrop of the performance space. You have 3 minutes. Section 1 is performed on an empty stage and the raised platform where the 4 musicians perform is now visible. This is the first time that the audience sees the 4 musicians. The lights are visible above the stage, shining down onto the dancers. There is black flooring, wings and backdrop, and it is performed on an end stage. Section 1 sets the tone for the work very clearly. The audience are introduced to the lighting, formations, and movement phrases which become clear without distraction from narrative or any vocals from the dancers. At the bottom of the page, there should be a box which asks you to highlight if the performance environment suggests a certain aspect. I want you to go through and highlight any of the phrases that you think the staging suggests about the piece. For example, you could highlight the phrase, "bare stage," so that the focus is on the action content, as the audience can see the different and repeated motifs easily and clearly. You should now have lots of different ideas for the staging of section 1. Make sure you have written down and highlighted each aspect that I have discussed as well as all of your own ideas. We are now going to move on and look at the lighting of section 1. Using the image, label and describe the lighting. Remember to think about the colours, the direction, the shape, the effect, the intensity and any shadows that the lighting creates. You have 3 minutes. In section 1, the lighting is programmed in a variety of patterns, allowing for single strips to highlight dancers in a line. A single horizontal colourful strip appears whilst the dancers break into the Lyris motif. Horizontal strips keep being added. This is the first section that the audience sees with the different coloured lighting. The lighting grid dictates position, so although there is a sense of fun, the dancers are still quite restricted. Why do you think Galeli chose a coloured grid that creates a checkerboard effect on the stage? Was it to show a carnival, or was it to show having fun? Think about the choreographic intention and stimulus of the piece. Now go through and highlight if the lighting suggests a certain aspect about the piece. For example, you could highlight the phrase mood atmosphere as the lighting adds immense excitement to the dance, allowing dancers to appear and disappear into light or darkness. You could also highlight choreographic intention and stimulus as the lighting shows the dancers having fun and a celebration of the Brazilian way of life, almost through a carnival atmosphere. You have 2 minutes. Next, we are going to look at the oral setting in section 1. I want you to create a mind map to describe the oral setting and the accompaniment. Your extension task is to analyse how the oral setting is used effectively. Remember to think about the instruments, the time signature, the style, the volume, the speed, the music-dance relationships, any silence, and if you can hear any of the dancers' movements. This section contains lots of different types of accompaniment. The main aspects that I chose were the drums, berimbau, bongos, and shakers. There is an upbeat, driving samba rhythm that has been created through the layering of each of the instruments. The accompaniment is loud and immerses the audience into a Brazilian carnival atmosphere. Now go through and highlight if the oral setting and accompaniment suggest a certain aspect about the piece. Think about how this section links to the choreographic intention and the stimulus. You also need to look at the music-dance relationships of this section and highlight the correct term. Are the music and dance in direct correlation, or do they mutually exist or disassociate with one another? You have 2 minutes. We are now going to look at the choreographic content of section 1. Much of the movement in this section comes from the named movement phrases developed by the dancers described in the choreographic approach to the piece. First, I want you to describe key motifs from this section, referring to the action, space, dynamics, and relationships. Secondly, I want you to move on to naming any structuring devices and forms within this section. Thirdly, I want you to move on to the Choreographic Devices box, naming any of the devices and where they are visible within Section 1. Write down as many examples as you can. An example of a motif for the movement content from Section 1 is the Robson Motif. The 7 dancers, facing stage left in a horizontal line, swiftly swing their arms above their head in a circular motion. The arms swing back down and then suddenly rebound to swing in front of the body. At the same time, the feet sharply step up into a rise on the left leg and then on the right in second position, and then step back down left and right. The elbows tuck in at the waist, the forearms circle and the head rolls in a circle fluidly. The left foot presses into a plie in second. The right arm reaches up and meets the left hand, creating a box shape over the head. At the same time, the feet step into a rise as before and step back down again. The arms release back down to the side of the body. For structuring devices and form, an example is unity between the dancers as they are all having fun and living in the moment. This section also uses clear transitions. For example, after Robson Motif is performed facing stage left, the dancers turn to face downstage and repeat this motif, which means there is a seamless transition between the motif being repeated. For choreographic devices, the section uses clear repetition, motif and development, unison and canon. What other devices did you pick out and where? Make sure you have at least another 2 written down. There is lots to analyse in terms of choreographic content, so make sure these boxes are full of your different ideas. Your next task is to highlight if the choreographic content suggests a certain aspect about the piece. You have 2 minutes. Well done for today's work. We have looked at the oral setting, the lighting, the staging, and the choreographic content of Section 1 from Linha Curva. For your homework, you need to download and complete the homework table. This homework table asks you to write down how the choreographic content, for example, supports the contributions of the piece. The contributions could refer to the choreographic intention, the stimulus, or the choreographic approach. You are then required to give your own personal interpretation of the choreographic content and how the choreographic content has an effect on the audience.